Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rumcast. This is the podcast that talks all things rum with the people who love and shape it. On today's episode, we dive heavy into Mhoba Rum from South Africa with founder Robert Greaves and distiller Shaldon Engelbrecht, while a friend of the show, Kaye of Holmes also joins us to talk about his most recent Mhoba Holmes new releases and how they came to be. But, Will, before we get to our main event today, we do have a couple announcements, a few things going on, and there's one big one with that, which is
There they are.
Yeah.
John is
really
holding
close.
up the actual Rumcast Reserve bottles in the flesh. Well, not for me, but for John. He's got some of the very first bottles to come off the actual labeling line. They look beautiful right now if you're watching on YouTube. And we
got our
very
felt and our linen label
our
here.
felt and our linen
Yep.
labels. We're already getting lots of feedback on how much better the felt labels are. So that's
really?
been great
Really?
to see that rolling
Wow.
in. The linen has gotten some compliments as well, but yeah, we're getting very close to these being available for online sales for our listeners in the U.S. in 41 states and D.C.
Yeah.
So exciting times.
Yeah, I think by the time people are hearing this episode, this is probably on October 26th-ish, and it should be, I would think, Will, in the next couple days that those links are going to drop, and people will be able to order them online, and then hopefully, not long after, be able to put them in their glass.
Yeah, so if you want to get an email right when the link goes up for public online sales, these will be pre-sales, by the way. I'll point that out. We're probably another week or two away from the online retailer being actually able to ship, but you can go ahead and pre-order, which we would encourage you to do because it's our first time doing this, and they're single casks, and we won't have more of these casks, so we really have no idea what the response will be like. But so if you want to know right away, you can go to rumcast.com/reserve. There's an email list. You can sign up there, and we'll send out an email right away when those links go live to make that easy for you. So yeah, I'm really excited. We've been talking about this rum for so long, John, and I know you went to an event, Boston Rum Week, and got to see some people taste it in person and everything. I haven't really seen that yet, so I'm I just want to know what people think of the rum, right? You and I are in love with it, but we're so curious to hear what reactions are and what tasting notes people have and things like that. Someone actually asked me today in the Rumcast Patrons Discord, are y'all going to publish tasting notes for this? And I was like, we literally haven't even talked about that together. So you can clearly tell this is our first time doing it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
have thoughts on that, though.
I do too.
There's I think you and I are in the same place probably, which is I don't want the power of suggestion to kind of take over. I almost want people to raw dog it and, see what, can I use that phrase for this?
Sure.
Just raw dog this
go for
rum
it.
and see what they get out of it before we say what we get out of it,
Yeah.
It's like that first mover conversation, and I do think it would be cool for us to do that. I know we have some original notes, and I know as I get to sit with the rums now that I have them in my possession for a little bit longer, can make a little bit more observations maybe, and then you and I can maybe talk about those on a future episode. But yeah, let's give some time for people to get these rums into their glasses, taste what they taste, see what they want to push out there for their tasting notes, and then that'll be fun to see.
Maybe we can set something up because we have a special page because there's a QR code on the label and you scan it and it takes you to a special page with all of the deeper details of each cask, and then also it kind of collects all the episodes we put out about each one, so you can kind of go back through the story or listen for the first time if you haven't yet. And maybe we have a little form there where you can send us in your thoughts and reactions. Maybe it'll be send us your tasting notes and we'll send you ours.
I like that idea. That's a good one. Yeah.
No, I think like you said, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I'm totally fine telling people what I think it tastes like, but I want to know what they think it tastes like, untainted by my own suggestions, you know. So
well, and there's so many people who are really good at that out there.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking most forward to seeing what people come up with, and then kind of rediscovering that as I taste it again. And so I think that would be really cool to see. It's like, this is the nerdiest thing I'm going to say maybe ever on this podcast, but I feel like this is like,
I'll be the judge
I've
of
said
that.
a lot of nerdy things. Will's face is like, are you sure? I was going to say, as a big Lord of the Rings fan, I was going to say, like, it feels like we're sitting on the edge of a battle here. Like, you're just on the precipice where the armies are lined
we're
up.
looking out over Helm's Deep right now.
Well, yes, you could say that. Helm's Deep is a good one, actually. Wow. And by the way, kudos to you for that reference. Or it could be Minas Tirith and the battle there as well. But yeah, my point there was, like, it feels like we're on this precipice of, like, you're staring down, not in this case, not the enemy, but just something
not
that
annihilation.
Yeah. Maybe this is a bad metaphor, but it's like this inevitable thing that's going to happen very soon, and then it's going to be interesting, and I'm just waiting for that still. So we're so
it
close.
Begins. Yeah, exactly. Is that the line?
Exactly.
Is that the line?
Yes,
Did I get
that's
that
from
right?
Helm's Deep. You got it.
Yeah.
You got it. Man, I'm so freaking proud of you.
I
5
just,
years ago, Will would not have been able to do that.
No, I saw the Lord of the Rings movies when they came out, and I've done a rewatch here and there. My wife had actually never seen them, and she's not as into fantasy and that sort of thing. But I kind of sold her on, like, I was like, these are movies. They're heartwarming tales about the power of friendship, and I like sold her on that aspect of it.
Nice.
And we ended up watching the whole trilogy together, and she really enjoyed it. And I caught her trying to sell her sister on watching it for the first time as well. So
what?
Yeah.
New podcast coming out, Lord of the Rings. Me and you
I don't think I'm there. I don't
it's not
think
gonna happen.
too much lore. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I do want to also mention, you mentioned the Boston Rum Week event, which was super cool. Very happy with that one. I have another one coming up. Will,
That's right.
I'm the world traveler here. You got to get with the program
I know.
here.
Yeah,
You've
I'm
just been sitting in
on my
Nashville.
ass. Yeah.
But I wanted to mention I will be joining the Florida Rum Society as a proud member myself at the Aku Aku Tiki Bar in downtown Orlando on Tuesday, November 4th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. for the Florida debut, Will, of the Rumcast Reserve.
That's right.
So,
slinging
if you're
pours.
Yeah. Having a good time, it's even, you can even say it's like a pub, like the Lord of the Rings, like a pub.
The Prancing Pony.
The Prancing Pony. It's Aku Aku in this case, but I like the idea of the Prancing Pony at some point. So anyway, come on, taste these rums, hang out with me, talk rum with me, Jay Cocarulo, and others. Rum lovers will be there as well, so we'll have a good time. Definitely, if you're in the area, Tuesday, November 4th, 5 p.m., come by.
Yeah. Awesome. We should also note, by the way, we were talking about online sales for the orders. Some of y'all listening may have started seeing photos trickling out of some stores around the country that have the bottles. And this was actually kind of a cool, unexpected thing that came out of the process where, as we said on the show all along, we always imagined just, selling 100% direct to consumer online sales. That makes it the most accessible. And that we actually had, a handful of stores in a few different states reach out to us and reach out to our partners at Raising Glasses who helped us with importing, with distributing and everything. And they were like, can we, get a few cases in our stores? And, we have kept by far the lion's share for online sales, but also sprinkled a few cases in a few different stores in Massachusetts, New York, Florida,
and
California. A few more weeks, a few California stores.
Yeah.
So
they got to take the long trip across the country, I think.
Yeah. So I think by far, like, the easiest place will be online. But if you're in those markets, send us an email. We can, like, send you a full list of stores. Like, some of them don't have it yet. Some of them it's just getting there. So there's no harm in asking a store either, I guess. If you have a store, that doesn't hurt at all. But again, like you said, Will, the main thing here is we are trying to get this to as many places as possible. That was our central mission, and one of the better ways that we know of, if you're not near a store that already has them, is going to be online. And really excited to get that link out to people soon. Yeah, but for now, excited to talk Mhoba on this interview.
Rumcast Reserve's not the only release coming to a rum cabinet near you, right?
It's not, exactly. Yeah. And, we talk about it a little bit at the beginning of the interview, but we've been trying, like, we did a Mhoba episode several years ago with Knud Strand, who was doing some work with them at the time and had a lot of great insight into kind of the early days of MOBA and everything. But we'd really wanted to talk to Robert Greaves, the founder, for a while. He sounded like such an interesting guy, building all of these stills himself and everything. And he also brought his distiller Shaldon along, and like you said, Eric hopped in. So we got like a bunch of really cool perspectives on MOBA because Eric's been there in person as well. So he had kind of, an outsider's perspective on it. And he's obviously doing his own thing with the Holmes key releases. But I learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know already. Heard some great stories as well about Robert's early days, tasting people like Richard Seale on MOBA and Ian Burrell and what the reactions were like and everything. So it was really cool. And it made me want to go visit someday.
Robert kind of feels a little like the Da Vinci of rum right now. Like
the Da Vinci of rum.
Yeah, like he has this kind of
a Renaissance man.
Renaissance man, yeah, but also like engineering marvel. Like he's just like, fuck it, I'll build it myself. And like that's such a different take on things than we used to hearing. So that in and of itself, I thought is just a fascinating thing. And then Shaldon also, and how he's come on board and started to try new things and pushing Robert with certain ideas and different things was also great to hear. And then, that coupled with Eric talking about his new releases and how he took a trip there. He's in South Africa with them, and how all of that kind of that marriage, I guess you would say, came together. And now you have these host of new releases for them coming out very shortly, if not already available as well, including, a peated rum.
That's right. We talk a lot about the peated MOBA release, and our, peated rum's been a controversial subject on the Rumcast historically. So we were talking face to face with a handful of people releasing their own peated rums. So that prompted a really great discussion.
So I think we can pop over to that, take a short break maybe first, and then, we'll go move forward and talk to them.
Mosey on over to the interview.
Mosey on. Coming up next, Mhoba Rum and Eric Kaye from Holmes.
All right, we're here with Robert Greaves and Shaldon Engelbrecht of Mhoba Distillery in South Africa, along with Eric Kaye, the founder of Holmes Key Rum, no stranger to the Rumcast, a bit of kind of a spreader of Mhoba rum throughout the United States. Robert is the founder of the distillery. Shaldon is a distiller. We've got a whole crew here on the Rumcast today. I feel like this interview has been a long time in the making. We did a MOBA interview with Knud Strand in 2021 and got some kind of background about the distillery. And we heard all these stories about this, mysterious founder. He built all the stills himself. He's not on social media. You can rarely reach him on phone. He wrestled an African buffalo with his bare hands. I may have made that last one up. We've heard it all. It built up this mythical figure in our mind. So we've been trying to get Robert Greaves on the podcast for a long time now to unravel the mysteries behind MOBA. And they had kind of the idea, let's bring on Shaldon as well, get the distiller perspective, see how the team has expanded. Let's bring Eric on here to get the perspective. Holmes Key is doing some really interesting collaborations and partnerships with MOBA right now. So we've got everyone here. We're going to dive in, unravel the mysteries, but welcome to you all. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much. And with all these dramatic, exciting stories I'm hearing, I think the best thing I could do is disappear again and people this cool myths alive.
Well, just give us an hour at least first, and then you can disappear again.
Like I said in our previous interview, we got a little bit of the backstory, but we haven't heard it from you, Robert. And, you've been the only one there since day one. I want to kind of zoom out a little bit and go to the very beginning. I know, obviously, you and your family, you have this background in sugarcane farming, but it sounds like what sparked the idea of doing this rum distillery was a trip that you took to Mauritius, which makes sense geographically. South Africa is not too far from Mauritius, but it's interesting because we talk to so many producers who, they go to the Caribbean and they get inspired there to start a rum distillery. So we don't hear as much about going to Mauritius, but it makes sense because sugarcane, rum is everywhere. And John and I have been kind of doing a deep dive into Mauritius rum lately ourselves, so we've been really excited about it. And I was just kind of curious to ask, what did you experience in Mauritius? What did you see there that really sort of opened your eyes to this really amazing world of cane juice rum and everything, and inspired you to build a distillery in the first place?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you to you guys for being so patient. I apologize for being so difficult to get hold of in the past. I'm
No
infamous for
apologies
being a
necessary.
poor
You've
communicator.
been busy. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, well, specifically back to the initial days. As you said, we've had a farm and farmed sugarcane amongst doing other things for a long time. We've had sugarcane, but it's all been farmed for the sugar mill and for sugar production. And in about 2007, when there was the big financial crunch that was initiated in the US and kind of impacted the whole world, we went through
Sorry about that one.
it's tougher than usual times, business-wise. And I started thinking, what else can I do? And obviously, several ideas came to mind, but producing alcohol of some sort was one of my potential ideas. And I toyed with it and experimented with it a bit, but didn't take it terribly seriously until I went to a wedding in Mauritius. And I met a French food and beverage manager at a very nice hotel, and they had over 200 bottles of rum in the bar there. And I started asking questions about the bottles and where they came from. And I think I actually irritated him quite a bit because I wasn't drinking anything. I was just asking for the bottle and reading the labels and checking them out and asking him questions. And he was very knowledgeable. And he initially was quite patient with me, and eventually said to me, "Where do you come from?" So I said, "No, I come from South Africa." He says, "Well, no wonder you know nothing about rum. You guys make good wine, and that's about it. You know nothing about anything else." But he said to me, "Rum is made everywhere in the world where they grow sugarcane. They make rum." And I think that's like the moment the penny dropped. As I say, I'd already been thinking about producing alcohol from sugarcane, but as I say, not really put all that much focus on it. I had several irons in the fire in terms of other ideas, and the rum was amongst them, but it wasn't the clear winner in terms of what I was going to do. But when this guy said to me, wherever there's sugarcane in the world, there's rum, I immediately thought, well, in the valley I live in, there's probably more sugarcane than on Mauritius Island, but no rum, and there never has been. So,
Got to fix that. Yeah.
If I make rum and I make it well, the history of rum being made all over the world kind of dictates that it should work. I mean, everywhere else there is sugarcane, there is generally rum, and that's a pretty good precedent. So if I made good rum, I don't see why it won't work. As I say, I flew back from Mauritius pretty determined to pursue the rum thing more than anything else. So that was the initial thing, and I started making rum here on a very small scale, and we started selling locally, not very much, but a fair amount, and it was growing, but quite. And my knowledge of rum obviously was still very, very limited, and my understanding of distilling and everything was also quite limited, but growing. And then the suggestion came about to go to a rum festival again in Mauritius, very small rum festival, but the master of ceremonies was going to be Ian Burrell. So
Perfect.
I thought it would be worth going to this thing mostly to meet Ian, to be honest. But also obviously to attend the festival, taste other rums, and just kind of get a more worldly view on rum rather than just doing my own thing. So we went to this thing and we booked into the hotel where everybody was pretty much staying. And the first day we got there, you can't miss Ian Burrell. He was at a table near the bar with his Panama hat on. And I approached him with a bottle immediately and stuck it under his nose and said, "Please try this." And he loved it.
No other introduction, just straight to the nose. "Please try this." Not "Hello, my name's Robert." Nothing.
Pretty much like that. He tried to introduce himself to me, and I said it was not at all necessary. I knew exactly who he was. He didn't need to tell me who I was. I told him who I was, and said, but I'm not the one I want you to meet. I want you to meet my rum. And yeah, he loved it. And it was a 3-day event, I think. And someone came up to me on the second or third day and just said to me, I don't know if you know this, but you should be really, really proud of yourself. So I say, why? And this guy said to him, well, Ian Burrell, I haven't seen him drink anything other than your rum. He could be drinking anything at this event on the house, but he's pretty much only drinking your stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had breakfast with him. He said he wants to have breakfast with me one morning in the hotel. And he said, yeah, I really love your juice. You got to come to London. I want you at the UK Rumfest. So yeah, we did. It was a couple of months later. I flew back and started immediately prepping for going to the Rumfest. Made custom bottles for Ian and for Luca and for Richard Seale and all the sort of people I idolized via social media. And yeah, when we got there, it was just, it was amazing. I mean, everyone I met was really complimentary. Everyone who tried the rum loved it. Yeah, it was just
I
really
wanted
cool.
to ask, I'd seen a reference, I think in maybe one of Ivar's interviews with you on Rum Revelations. It mentioned the 2017 UK Rum Fest, and you met Richard Seale and he tasted your rums. I've talked to other distillers in the past who have had that moment of like having Richard Seale taste their rums for the first time and getting that feedback. And I've heard from others that it can be quite nerve-wracking because Richard's going to tell you how he feels about it, right?
He doesn't pull his punches. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm curious, did already having a little bit of validation from Ian, did that make it less nerve-wracking to have that moment with Richard Seale, or were you still a little nervous to hear what his review of the rum was going to be?
And I was pretty much fucking petrified when Rich, as you mentioned, Richard calls a spade a spade. So yeah, no, I was quite awestruck. I was like a deer in the headlights, to be honest, when he approached our stand, and he spent quite a bit of time with us, and we were at the time using these quite fancy glasses that were supposed to enhance the nose and the bouquet of any spirit you were trying. So I, of course, whipped one of these out to try and impress him and gave it to him. He promptly grabbed one of the plastic little tasting cups and poured it into the plastic cup. So he had no time for our fancy glass and sipped it from one of these plastic tasting cups. And yeah, he didn't actually say all that much, but he tasted it quite a few times. And just before he left, he looked at me and said, "Not bad," and walked away.
That's like a
super on brand. Yeah.
I feel like that's the equivalent of getting like 2 huge thumbs up and a rave review from the average person, right?
That's like a solid 8.5.
Yeah.
Pretty good as a 10.
I bumped into Ian in the elevator up to our rooms later that evening, and he said, I noticed Richard spent some time at your stand. What do you have to say? So I said, he gave me quite a lot of feedback, but in terms of like good or bad, he just said not bad. So Ian said, that means fucking great. From Richard, that means fucking great. So yeah.
I was gonna say, I feel like Ian Burrell is like the Kevin Bacon of rum. Like there's like 6 degrees of separation, but it's probably closer to like 2 for Ian.
2 degrees of Ian Burrell.
Yeah. He's behind so much of that, so that's a fascinating story. So I also wanted to kind of dive into, Robert. So it sounds like we've got the origin, but I want to know more about the actual plant equipment and how this came together. I know you studied mechanical engineering, and my understanding is you built this plant equipment with your own 2 hands, no tools, just, kind of got it all together with your own 2 hands. And I wanted to ask how that came together and this distillery's philosophy about how you approached everything, doing everything in-house on your own.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, all correct except for the no tools. But I'm a tools addict. I buy tools all the time. I'm about as bad as my wife. She likes buying clothes and shoes and handbags. I like buying tools. So the new no tools, but is not true at all. I have a lot of tools. Yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer. My dad is a mining engineer. He started the business that I've inherited, and we've just always had that kind of philosophy. We are quite remote. We're not in a very developed part of the country, so there's not a lot around in terms of help. So if you need something, you generally make it yourself, or you could import it. Obviously, historically, my dad's era was before the days of like Alibaba and ordering something from China. You would have to have it sort of custom built by an engineering shop somewhere, or make it yourself. So we have pretty much always built stuff ourselves. So I've just kind of inherited that modus operandi. I mean, that's how we operate. If you want something, you make it. And I think Sheldon's learned a lot in the last while that he's been here, because if we need to put a pump station in, we do it ourselves. I mean, we do all the calculations, size the pump, size of the pipes, buy them and put them in yourself. We don't use contractors or consultants or anything like that. So it's just kind of how we operate. And my dad was a bit like that, except he had a much bigger business. That business was thriving in his time compared to now. So he had a lot of people under him, qualified technical people who he would basically give instruction to, and they would carry it out. Our economy has regressed quite a bit since then, especially in terms of industrial activity. So, yeah, we've shrunk a lot as a business. And we don't have the people anymore. So a lot of the stuff I do myself. I do have a lot of help. And especially 10, 15 years ago, I was not that I'm ancient. I was younger and fitter and stronger. And yeah, I did do a lot of stuff myself, cutting, welding, building stuff myself. But I would often build the first one and then get guys I trusted and worked with to duplicate that. If there were 2 or 3 units, I would build the first one with them, and then they would carry on and do more. It's certainly the design and the actual planning of everything is most certainly my brainchild and my baby. Yeah, the idea that I built absolutely everything by myself is not at all true. I had a lot of help, but yeah, I did build a large portion of it. And certainly designed it all, and the concept and layout and general plan is definitely mine.
Speaking of the design, also maybe that you can help us describe a little bit about the stills. I know you said you started small, right? And now you've grown over time. I've seen some depictions of these stills, by the way, and they don't look like usual, like I would think of, like when I think of just a pot or a column still. So I was hoping that maybe you can give a little bit about the stills, the specifics themselves, and maybe Shaldon, you can also jump in a little bit with that about how you're using them, what advantages they may give you versus those traditionally used stills.
Being an engineer and having this sort of belief that I can pretty much do anything and build anything I want to build. I'm occasionally right. Yeah, I immediately started researching stills, reading up about them. I bought books from Amazon. I obviously Googled and looked online a lot, and actually built a couple of prototype, really small stills. I mean, sort of 5-liter size stills, and then learned a lot by trial and error. Just trying and driving my wife mad with experiments in the kitchen and in the driveway and in the garage. Just gently causing
no room was safe.
Yeah. Anyway, and then I came across this still designed by guys called Nixon and Stone. The one is a PhD chemist and the other one is actually an electrical engineer. So they're both highly technical people, and they created this sort of blueprint for building a still at home for home distilling that would produce really, really refined, neutral type alcohol from pretty much anything. So I spent quite a lot of time reading up about that, and actually bought their book by PDF. So they emailed it to me. I mean, these guys are seriously bright and intelligent and very scientific. So the whole design of their still and their whole way of operating is very scientific. Now looking back at it, they know nothing about great rum. They wanted to just produce clean alcohol.
Right.
And that's
When
what
you
I
said
started.
neutral, I was like, this is what Mhoba rum comes from. These these distills designed for neutral spirits.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's pretty much how we started. I mean, my initial idea, even before going to Mauritius and even really committing to it, I had this idea that I want to make a single malt whiskey style spirit, but from sugar. Sugarcane is
Mm.
obviously the crop we have. I don't have barley fields. If I did, I probably would have made a whiskey, but I had sugarcane to work with, so I wanted to make a spirit from sugarcane. And I had no clue. I mean, I didn't know what I thought I was making cachaça initially. I never even heard of rum alcohol. I had no idea what to call it, but I wanted to make this spirit that was made entirely from what we grew, which was sugarcane. And I didn't know what it was called, to be honest. So yeah, and initially I wanted to I thought good stuff was really refined and yeah, close to being neutral and easy to drink. That's what I kind of had in my brain as being good stuff. And that's what I pursued. And I thought these guys who've built this super advanced still that can clean up anything, doesn't matter what you put in there, it comes out as kind of tasteless 96% ethanol. I
Yum.
thought this was like cutting edge stuff. And I still believe that it's a good way to start distilling. I don't believe you can just out of the block start making crazy stuff. A bit like art. My mom's an artist, my dad's an engineer, and I think what I'm doing now is a good combination of both of those kind of skill sets. There's a creative aspect to it and a science behind it as well. But my mom told me that during her studies of fine art, you would spend weeks and weeks and weeks just learning to draw a hand, because hands are particularly hard to draw accurately and to get all the proportions right. So you can't just start doing abstract, crazy stuff like Picasso and think it's going to sell for $1 million. You need to first master the basics and basically be able to illustrate and do things skillfully
which Picasso
before
did.
you before you start throwing your weight around and doing crazy stuff. And I feel spirit making is the same. You should, if you want to, be able to make a super clean, refined spirit. And then you can start branching out from there and adding more of this and more of that and taking broader cuts and being a bit more adventurous. As I said, I think just start making crazy stuff from the beginning. It's probably not going to be great. I think you need to start making light stuff and start, as I say, expanding from there and making more and more adventurous stuff, which is the path we're on. We're still getting more and more adventurous. So, and we're still experimenting with this and that, and some of it works and some of it doesn't. Yeah, I don't think we'll ever stop growing and learning. But so anyway, the stills, sorry, very long answer to your question. The stills basically are an evolution of designs I've found online, and it's probably mostly based on the Nixon Stone design, which is freely available online. You can actually find their little book and design and everything online, but it's not exactly that. It's that with some modifications. I see Eric has in fact got his new background image is at the front of the stills. You'll notice sort of a ring around the necks of the stills, about a foot above the lid of the stills. There's a welded horizontal ring there. And I call those the Richard Seale rings because when I went to London, one of the pieces of advice to me, he asked me about my stills, and I told him, and he said, well, they're working too well. Meaning that they're stripping obviously too much out of the spirit and there's not enough flavor left. And the length of those necks on the still largely determines how clean the alcohol is that comes out. So it gives you a greater length over which your reflux occurs in the still. So I actually, after meeting Richard, cut them and made them shorter so that they make, generally speaking, heavier distillate.
Did you send him the pieces later that you had cut out of the call?
No, not at all. In fact, I don't think he even knows it happened.
He's not aware of the seal rings on there.
No.
That's really cool to see the evolution and just knowing, having tasted Mhoba now and seen some of the how adventurous it can be, knowing that it had these origins of being this very clean, highly refined product, but that informed what you've been able to do since then is really interesting.
It is.
I want to kind of get everyone involved for a second, because one of the things that I think is interesting about your rum, and one of the reasons I'm guessing it probably resonated so well when you took it to the UK Rum Fest, is that while it reminds me personally of some other rum styles, it's kind of entirely its own thing. And I'm curious, just for each of you, like, how do each of you describe Mhoba rum? And I want either Eric or Shaldon to go first and Robert to go last, because Robert kind of has the final word as the founder. But I'm curious, how do you guys, if you're giving someone Mhoba for the first time, how do you describe it to people?
I'll start. Mhoba is very unique in my opinion. It's quite different from a lot of other sugarcane juice-based rums. I think that's a given. Just based on the climate and the terroir and the area where it's made, it's already set itself apart just to that. But then also the processes and how we make it. So, I mean, the biggest facet that makes it unique, aside from those, is the fact that we merge concepts that are commonly seen in heavy molasses-based rums found in Jamaica, such as those made from Long Pond and Hampton and so on, where they use things like cane vinegar and they use things like dunder to enhance the acidity of their ferments, and they do extended fermentations. Those things are commonly found in heavy molasses rums as well, and not so much in heavy juice rums or in any juice rums for that matter. So we've taken those concepts and applied them to juice to produce a heavy and rich product. So I would say it's like taking a juice rum from like a rum agricole and then bastardizing it with a Jamaican style. It's the best way to do it. It's an intense juice rum. It's a juice rum that's been upped to 1,000.
Yeah. Eric, I feel like that's a really tough act to follow.
He pretty much nailed everything I was going to say, which is really, I was just going to crib what Ian Burrell first had to say about it. It's really a cross between this beautiful Martinique agricole lady with this big funky Jamaican dude, and you have this amazing melange of the two. You know, you've got the grassiness and of the fresh cane juice mixed with the real funky Jamaican long open air fermentation. And I don't know another rum that really combines it in this way.
Yeah. Robert, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I agree with Eric and Sheldon, obviously there. I obviously am biased, so I don't really like to tell people how wonderful it is, although I do get really offended when they say it's not. But I'm obviously very biased. But yeah, it is. It's in terms of flavor profile. If I could explain to somebody what it's like, I'd rather take a glass and stick it under their nose and let them decide for themselves. But
a fancy glass, not a plastic cup.
Well, it seems like it doesn't really matter. The rum's so good, it tastes great. So, if I couldn't let them taste it, obviously, I think that's description that I heard from, in fact, from Ivar a lot. I didn't know that it originated from Ian, but it sounds very much like something Ian would say. I didn't know that Ivar got it from Ian. He said to me, yeah, it's kind of like the baby that would be made between a pair of parents from Jamaica and from Martinique. If they had to get together and make a baby as rums. The offspring would be something like Mhoba. It's kind of the solventy, upfront explosion, and some of the fruitiness of Jamaica mixed with the cane juice characteristics of an apricot. Yeah, as I say, that doesn't completely nail it, but I guess it's, if you had to relate it back to things that people are familiar with, I guess that's probably about the best description you could give it. And it hasn't been engineered that way. It's just, that's how it's come out. We kind of, obviously we built the stills, or I've built the stills the way I want the stills, and makes what I feel is a good spirit, but it's just basically a liquid distilled expression of our sugarcane.
Yeah.
Nature is doing the rum making. I say to people, we are actually blessed with rum making potential here. The climate's right. The cane varieties are unique and different. Our stills obviously are different. We also built our own cane press, which is squeezing the juice out of the sugar cane in a unique way. There's no other cane press in the world that I'm familiar with or that I know of. It's anything like ours. But the biggest thing I think is the unique cane varieties. The climate here is different. The wild yeasts growing on the cane are different. And our maturation is I think really quick and accelerated because of the climate here. I mean, in summer we can get to 45, 46, 47 degrees Celsius, which is way hotter than an island. The islands in the Caribbean don't get that hot because the sea keeps the temperature down. The sea moderates the temperature, whereas here it can get stinking hot.
Yeah, that's
that
116 Fahrenheit for the Americans listening. So that's like
way up there. Yeah.
It can really cook here. So I think we've got at least tropical aging claims, but something I think perhaps even beyond average tropical aging in terms of duration and how fast it happens. So we've got some 3-year-old rums that are outstanding. I mean, as I've said to Shaldon often, if you told me this was a 12-year-old Caribbean rum, I'd believe you. So yeah, for the age, some of our stuff is incredible. So we are blessed with natural rum making potential here. I think you have to be a bit of an idiot to mess it up, to be honest.
Well, I did want to ask a little bit more about the production process, because one of the first things I think of with Mhoba are some of what you spoke to, Shaldon, of some of those kind of Jamaican principles around fermentation, these long extended fermentations, usage of dunder or vinasse, and wild yeast and everything. So I know it's been a journey to get to where you are today, but and I'm sure the production process has evolved. You've tried different things. What are kind of the typical fermentations you're running right now? What do those look like?
The typical fermentation. So we have what we have been doing for the longest time, which is almost like a staple in our distillery. We call it select white because initially we still do it where we separate cuts of distillates into certain cuts and then taste them all to select what we feel is best for a certain purpose.
Yes, I mean, there's not numerous cuts, so not just like 4 shots which are discarded, and then traditionally head, heart of body, and then tails. We actually, as Sheldon mentioned, cut it into numerous fractions, which then get tasted after the fact. And instead of having to make your cuts live while you're distilling, you can put it in separate bottles and then ponder it and think, okay, I want a little bit of this, and I want all of that, and I want all of that, and I want all of that, and I only want half of that.
So it's like blending in and of itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So each distillate that coming off the still, each batch becomes a blend, and you don't have to make a distinct cut. You can actually blend in proportions of the heads with the body or not. It's entirely up to you, and you can take your time and I feel make a more informed decision, whereas to make it during the distillation process according to temperature or volume, I don't know, it's hard to get that right. Whereas if you can have a cup of coffee and taste something, and if you're not sure, wait a while, come back and try it again, I can give much more control over the quality of the rum. Sorry, I've interrupted there.
So that whole premise is what drove our initial rum making. So we have our basic fermentation process, which is called select white due to this selection process, which is 100% pure cane juice, wild fermented for a period of 7 to 10 days. So that's the truest and most honest expression of our sugarcane as it is. It drives Mhoba. It's filled for most of our cast. We use it as a base fill. It's truly Mhoba as it is and our sugarcane as it is. And that's the closest we go to a rum agricole similarity. But from there, then we start straying into our high ester fermentations, our acidic additions to fermentations. The longest standing fermentation that we have with that is we call it GHE, which is actually named after Robert Greaves, because Greaves high ester. I coined it that term because he originally gave it the recipe. And that's, we take the same cane juice, so freshly pressed cane juice. The wash is comprised of about 70% of that, and then 30% dunder, which the dunder that we have is left in an open tank to rot indefinitely. So it's not enclosed dunder or dunder that we keep in a safe environment. It's wild dunder. So we add this to the wash, and then this ferments for a period of 21 days, so 3 weeks.
Wow.
But this has been experimented with a lot. In the past, it's gone up to 28 days, and it's a thing we're still trialing with, but settling around 21 days. But it's also very dependent on weather and temperature. Sometimes we'll exceed that days because it's a colder, like in winter months, it might be lower in terms of its degrees, like 25 degrees Celsius, 26 degrees Celsius sometimes. Whereas, as Robert mentioned, in summer it'll go up to 45. Obviously, that has an impact on fermentation. So a fermentation that would have lasted only 21 days in the heat of summer, you'll have to push it out a little bit longer in winter to get the same results, which is what we do. So those are our two core fermentation, or what we are hoping to eventually coin as marks for our distillery. We're obviously still young and trying to learn what we need to learn before we make such a bold claim. But and then from there we started with some more interesting and unique and different rather experiments. One coming from the cousins process, which is very popular in Jamaica. It's a very it's a recipe that's been laid out by cousins, H.H. Cousins, from remembering that name correctly, on how to produce a high ester rum. And it's I don't know how else to describe it. And it introduces factors such as cane vinegar, cane trash, which would be the leaves that you pull off of the sugarcane when you cut it, and trash from the fields. And by trash, I mean green trash, like cane leaves, sticks of cane that haven't been used, and the gas from us pressing the sticks of cane. So all that green trash gets introduced to the fermentation. Even soil gets introduced to the fermentation, and a variety of organic factors. And this all goes into a tank to create like a stewing, bubbling mess. It's like a stew of wild funkiness. It makes
Muck.
It's not much quite yet. Muck is a bit thicker and it's made with the residues of the fermentation. This is just a bunch of organic matter from the fields and from distillers and so on, and it's left to just do its thing. And then this then gets taken, this dunder hybrid, and gets added into our fermentations for a slightly shorter fermentation of about 14 days, so 2 weeks. Not about, it's exactly 14 days. And this produces a different type of flavor profile. It starts venturing more towards the rotten fruits. Still has that brininess and salinity and savory characters and the acetone, which we are well known for. But it introduced some more rotten fruit notes as well.
Sorry, I was going to say, I've heard it actually described as less fruity. I think, Robert, I'm not sure if it was you that said that the high ester rum that you're making is somehow less fruity than your regular. Do you still kind of, I mean, when I think of that, that seems counterintuitive to most rum nerds like experience. When we hear high ester, we think more of that, like Savannah or some of those things that we have. So are you still like kind of on that wavelength now, or is the experiments that you're doing in high ester now changing that?
Yeah, well, that's partially the reason that after Sheldon joined me, I'd actually asked him to venture further down this road that I have
see.
kind of started going down, which is making juiced rum in a Jamaican style. And obviously there are various degrees of that. And yeah, I mean, you can use dunder, you can use muck, you can, as Sheldon says, I mean, they even add local minerals sometimes like limestone and all sorts of things to ferment. So there are numerous things we can try. And Sheldon is champing at the bit to start a full-on muck pit, which we're definitely going to have a go at. We just got so many things going on at the moment, both in Mhoba and in other business. Unfortunately, that is rather distracting. But we will get to these things when we can. Yeah. But back to the, and that's why I've asked him to pursue this Jamaican style even further than what I had initially only introduced dunder at a rate of about 30% per batch, and then gone for 28-day ferments.
Yeah.
Sheldon's put a lot more focus and attention into other aspects of Jamaican rum making, like the cousins process, or at least aspects of the cousins process. And that's, I think, to pursue the fruitiness slightly more. It's something that I absolutely love in Jamaican rum. The rotten acetone fruit stuff is just wonderful to me. So I wouldn't mind if we could get more of that. Again, I don't want to copy other rums, but they definitely do inspire me and make me want to pursue something like that and see where it goes for us. Because up until now, I have actually been surprised by our dunder high esters, the initial high esters that I started making, which Sheldon now calls the GHE. In the good old days, it was just high ester because we didn't have any others. But Sheldon's now making various other recipes, so
you need to
got to
differentiate
them. So,
yeah.
so the old one is now GHE, and yeah, to me that is, it's got some fruitiness to it, but it's not a full-on Jamaican fruit bomb. I mean, it's got some salinity and some almost like olive brine. Savory aspects to it as well. It's not entirely fruity, and I may have said that our normal select white is fruitier, but it's in a different way. It's not a rotten fruit. It's more fresh fruity. Like Sheldon says, he often gets green apple. I get a bit of strawberry jam on our select white. There's definitely, there's more fruitiness I feel to the select white, but it's a fresher fruit aspect. Not the sort of traditional Jamaican rotting fruit or ripe fruit, like really brown bananas or something like that, which I get on Jamaica. I don't really get tons of that on our rum.
Right.
Something I wouldn't mind having more of.
Yeah. Well, so maybe we can bring it back to the present here a little bit, because I know we have these new releases coming from Holmes Key, and those are going to be in the U.S. market. Is it fairly soon, Eric, or are they already available?
Just starting the single casks, and actually they've just hit Illinois this week, and they should be hitting everywhere else in the next week or two.
Awesome. And that includes the 2 6-year-old single casks, one of which has the P word, which we're going to talk about, peated, right? And then a high ester pot still that's going to be released, and then the pineapple infused rum. I'm not even sure that's how you want to describe that one, the Sahenge, but I'm going to let you talk about it and bring you in here. So before we get to the actual rums, Eric, I do want to start asking you a little bit about the trip that you took to South Africa back in March with Ivar and Mike Hooker and meeting up with Robert. I know Ivar has done a tremendous job of covering it on his Rum Revelations blog already, so people can go check that out if they want everything here. But Eric, I wanted to ask you to start with, what's the decision how did that come together to go to South Africa, and then how that all worked itself into these releases?
Sure. So this was actually December of 23. We made the trip.
Okay. His article was 2024, but got it.
It took a while. So we released 4 barrels of Mhoba back in, I guess, 3 or 4 years ago now. They were a huge success.
21.
Yeah, 21.
I actually have one here.
There you
It's
go.
Phenomenal.
The original.
Yeah. Yep.
And we sold out of those very quickly, and we're ready to do another. And Robert sent me a bunch of samples. And one of them I loved. I'm like, this one is great. Can we do 4 barrels of that? And he said that's the barrel of that.
The,
I'm like,
the barrel. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, okay, I think I need to come over there and really see. So I
Yeah.
dragged along Ivar and Mike Hooker, who were kind enough to just come to South Africa at drops notice. I really had to twist their arms.
I
Yeah,
was
I'm
gonna
sure.
say they were kind enough to.
Yes. So we made the long flight to Joburg, where Robert was kind enough to pick us up. It's a good 4.5 hour drive to Mhoba from the airport. Um, but we did get to stop and stock up on biltong, which is essential for anybody who goes there. So good. Um, and ended up tasting about 50 barrels over a couple of days, which were amazing. We found about 10 that we loved. We couldn't obviously release all 10 at once, so we started with 4. And then, as you do in South Africa, you have a braai, you're a proper barbecue. And at the barbecue, Robert brought out this brown bottle, and we lost John.
He'll be
And
back. Don't worry
he's
about
like,
him.
he's like, try this. And it was the forecursor of the Sahangi pineapple rum. They had previously released pineapple rum called Frankie's Pineapple Rum, which was different. And they changed the infusion process, a little bit of the fermentation, and this thing. There was lots to drink at the barbecue, and we drained a full bottle of that between like the 3 or 4 of us in no time. I'm like, this is really good. Can we, do a lot of that? So
Yeah, more than one barrel worth.
that was the genesis of that. And then we went into the still room, or right outside. He's got all of these glass casks lined up, and he's like, yeah, this is some of the new stuff Sheldon was working on. And we tried it and flipped. It was like some of the most ridiculous, best white unaged rum any of us had ever had in our life. And it turns out, how he talks about the various cuts? This was like the cut of the cut of the cut of like, if you had a whole cow and Kobe filet mignon was the best cut, this was like the center dime in the middle of the filet mignon. And I'm like, can we do that? And he's like, sure. And then like a month later, they realized, if we just did that, we would be throwing away like 95% of the rum, and it would take us 6 months to just get 1,000 bottles of it. So we need to expand the cut a little bit to make something we can actually produce. And it's really, really similar. I have a little sample of that original cut of the cut of the cut, and the Sheldon is pretty damn close to it. So we were able to, or they were able to. My entire contribution is saying, yes, this is really good. Let's release it. This is all Robert and Sheldon's making these rums.
I wanted to ask Sheldon, since your name is on the release,
Yeah.
did you have final say in what ended up being the blended version to attempt to capture this cut of the cut of the cut, or expand it a little bit?
Yep. For the most part, I was the one that led the blend. So I picked certain parts of our distillate and blended them together to create this expression that's in the Sheldon, which is why the Sheldon is really possible.
But yeah, just even more fundamental was that the primary sort of difference between what they tried in the still room there, but that in our normal high ester was something that Sheldon was experimenting with, which is like a 1.5 distillation. So in other words, you take a previously distilled batch and then you blend it in with a new batch and then you distill that. So it's almost like a single retort almost result on a rum, traditional Caribbean rum still. Perhaps a still with one retort might give you a similar effect. It's kind of like 1.5 distillations. It's not full on double distillate, but it's a new batch spiked with a previous batch and then distilled. And that's something I've done in the past, to be honest, but I've never done it with high ester. And Sheldon did that, and it came out really well. And Eric and Ivo and Mike tried one of those first attempts at that, and that's what they fell in love with. And as I said, it was one of Sheldon's experiments to create that in the first place. So hence the name.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the first Mhoba branded US market release. Is that correct?
It is. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool to have that. And Shaldon, you must be pretty proud to also have your name on it.
Yes, no,
very
definitely, and very proud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool to be in the US, and we're very grateful to Eric for his support and for getting us out there. I myself have always been rather like fascinated with the US and just how generally industrious you guys are. I mean, just like the cities you built. I mean, just it's mind-boggling what you guys have done in a fairly short time compared to the Europeans. Just the scaling, the economy and everything is just mind-boggling. So as I say, I've always been kind of fascinated with the industrious nature of the Americans in general and what's been accomplished there. So yeah, I'm very proud to have one of my labeled rums there. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you,
when you're ready to jump across the pond back over here for a little bit, you head over to New York where Eric is, to Nashville where Will is, and Miami where I'm at, and bring along some interesting things, and we'll have a party together. Speaking of interesting things, though, Eric, I do want to talk more about the other releases that you have. So this is under the Holmes Key label. You have the two. I don't know if you would call these twin releases necessarily, but
I would.
How would you describe them?
So it's basically the same rum, and correct me if I'm wrong, with two very different casks. So, you can say a rum is a fermentation forward or a barrel aged forward where the flavors come from. And these are two really different rums. The only difference being the casks. One of them was a South African whiskey, and the other was a South African peated whiskey. And the one thing I still have yet to been able to figure out is where the peat actually comes from, because there's no peat in South Africa.
Good question.
I've seen the peated whiskey. The peated South African whiskey does exist. But I don't know if you guys know where the peat actually comes from.
They're importing peated malt. The Cedric Distillery down in the Cape that produces Baines, which is a maize whiskey, and Three Ships, which is a malt whiskey, malted barley. They do import some peated malt for producing some malted whiskey. I mean, I think it's quite tame compared to the Isla stuff. It's not at all hectically peated, but it's quite mildly peated in comparison, but it's peaty nonetheless. And that must be one of the casks that contained one of Cedric's Three Ships peated whiskey. I mean, I picked it up immediately when I filled the cask. I could taste the peat on it straight away. It's quite subtle compared to proper, well-known peated whiskies. Yeah, but it's there. Definitely there.
I'm going to use that term moving forward, hectically peated, when I have something.
And I just want to say, I think it was a Rumcast. I've been on record as saying I would never release a peated rum.
Well, we were going to get there, Eric. I'm glad you introduced it. Yeah.
And I tried it, and I'm like, because again, it's not like an Isla cask. It's not that heavy peat monstery thing. It was really flavorful, and I've poured a little bit at rum shows and the like recently, and people are like, peated, oh no. And then they taste it, and this is not, for people who don't like peated scotch, you're still going to like this, I think.
Well, I will say, John and I have had several discussions on the show over the years about rums aged in peated whiskey casks, and I think neither of us have been very high on them historically. I think John has had even more challenges with them than I have. And like during our trip to Maine Rum to buy a cask, we tried a Guyana rum aged in a peated cask. It was a Port Morant. We were just like, no, this isn't quite working.
It was hectically peated.
Peated.
Yeah, it was.
But one of the times that Mike Hooker came through Nashville doing like some Holmes Key tastings, I swung by a store he was doing a tasting at. and he had some like the under the table kind of pours, and one of them he wouldn't tell me what it was. He was like, I just want you to try this. Don't, it was like from a sample bottle. He didn't tell me the distillery or anything. He was just try this and tell me what you think it is. And I don't even remember what I guessed it was, honestly, but I did not like peated rum did not enter my mind at all. And it was this rum, and I really enjoyed it. So I think I can safely say it is the rum aged in a peated whiskey cask I've enjoyed the most. But it was a much subtler influence. Like you still get some of that characteristic you would expect of the smoky quality and everything, but. I thought it was super cool. So I definitely think it's if you're skeptical about rums aged in peated whiskey casks, because that's the other thing about this. Like I like peated whiskey, peated Scotch.
Same.
I'll drink Lafroig, Lagavulin, whatever. It's really good. I just haven't historically. I've found the marriage of the two of rum with that influence to not totally come together, and I felt like this one really did.
The other thing is most rums that have been out there using those casks, it's used as a finish.
Yeah.
It's 6 years in bourbon and then they throw it in a fresh peat cask for a year.
Right.
This was fully aged in peated whiskey for 6 years.
Which is counterintuitive because then you might think, oh, it's got more peat, but it really doesn't. So to back up Will's point, I was able to try it, Eric, as we saw each other in Boston recently for Boston Rum Week, and I was able to have it there. And I have to say, like, as Will mentioned, I've had real tough, time going with any peated rums, and this one was my favorite of any peated rum I've tried to date. So exactly because of all the reasons that you all have already described, with it being subtle and well integrated. So, kudos to you. And it was really even cooler to be able to try it next to that very similar product that wasn't peated, right? So there's just the South African whiskey versus the peated one was really cool. They're both very similar in terms of ABV and, the years they were matured for. I think it was 6 years. So, that was a really cool thing. I think we always, as rum nerds, love when you can get kind of close and just have maybe one variable in there is always fun to explore.
I did want to ask you guys, the rum that goes into these casks for aging, is it a completely different process? Is it a similar rum to the Select White? Is it something specially just for aging?
Well, that's constantly evolving, and we do a bit of a mix as well. As Sheldon says, I mean, we're really young. We're
Yeah.
infancy compared to Caribbean distillery. A lot of them are 300 years old. We're not even 10 yet. So we've still got a lot of experimenting and finding our feet to do. But yeah, a lot of what you guys are now having in cask that's sort of 3 or 4 years old, it's pretty much Select White, which was my recipe at that stage, was Select White. And then I would add a certain amount of double distillate. Heads and tails, particularly from double distillate, sort of the more intense portions of double distillate are double distillate. Early stages of the distillate are very brown sugar and acetone, and it kind of ups the ante a bit on the Select White cut. So I was predominantly filling my barrels before Shaldon came around with Select White with portions of double distillate, which is also just cane juice ferment, so no high ester. I did do some high ester barrel fills as well, but they were quite limited. I guess maybe 10% of the barrels I was doing with high ester, probably 90% with Select White plus some double distillate casks. It's kind of my analogy was Richard Seale's blended rum, where he mixes pot with column distillate.
Yeah.
I obviously don't have a column, but my double distillate was my sort of approximation of a higher ABV, more sort of refined distillate, which is what I was adding to the single distillate. And it made some really good rum, and we're still doing barrels like that. I've said to Sheldon, it's fine to experiment and do some crazy stuff, but before we go fully Picasso, we need to start. We need to keep on doing what's worked so far. We've built a bit of a name and done it quite quickly, and I'm really proud of that, and want to keep on doing what we were doing that's worked so far, as well as experiment with new crazy stuff. I mean, as I say, we are very young. I think we still got a lot of learning to do. So we are doing fills with more adventurous whites and getting further, I think, down the Jamaican road in terms of long ferments and acidic additions to fermentations, and getting more adventurous, I think, in our cuts as well. I mean, you kind of evolve. It took me years and years to get to the stage where I am now. I mean, if you gave me a Savannah or a long Pardon's TECC or a DOK 10 years ago, I probably would have spat it out and told you it was terrible. Whereas now I can't get enough of this stuff. So, and it's taken me kind of 10 years to evolve to that stage, just in terms of what I appreciate. In those days, I would have said, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to make rum or how to distill. But it's something you've got grown to appreciate and learn to not only like, but love. Shaldon is quite a freak of nature in that he's like at 22 already had that without even really having tried any of that stuff. He just liked it straight away.
He jumped straight into the deep end. Yeah.
He didn't take long. What initially made me want to work with him was he brought me a bottle of molasses-based rum that he'd made as a hobby, and it was phenomenal. It was really good stuff. I mean, I would love to have a barrel full of that aging. It was really the best rum I've ever tasted from anyone else in South Africa.
Wait, so Shaldon, you were making your own rum before you ended up at Mhoba, is that right?
Yeah, on a very, very small scale, not molasses, not cheaps. Yeah, I was, yeah.
How did you get into it? Was it just a hobby that you picked up, or what pushed you into rum specifically?
So my background is I studied human biology. I have a BSc in that. And as a part of that coursework, I did a lot of organic chemistry, etc., etc. Which got me into distillation to some extent. So I started experimenting with distillation, like sugar washes and all the home distillation like things. And then eventually, I mean, there's a sugar mill quite close by. Molasses is readily available in the area, quite decent costs. So I bought some molasses and started experimenting with molasses to make a rum. And from there, it just kicked off. And I played around and learned a lot and read as much as I could. And so that's how it went.
So the last of these releases that are coming out with Holmes Key is the Sihenge, right, which is the pineapple infused rum. And again, it was something I got to try and enjoyed recently. And Eric, I wanted to ask you, where did that? I mean, I know you said you got it. You asked them, can they do it? But then I also understand that it's made differently than like. When we think of pineapple-infused rums or pineapple-flavored rums, we think of something completely different. So I was wondering if you can talk a little bit and then maybe toss it over to Robert and Shaldon for how they made it.
Sure. I think Robert and Shaldon are definitely more the ones to speak about the actual production. But what I love about it is it has no sugar added. It has no pineapple flavoring added. A lot of the pineapple rums on the market are very differently made. And what's also interesting is this is using the Natal Queen pineapple. So it's also a pineapple we don't get in the States. It's a less acidic variety of pineapple. So you're not getting that tart and you're not getting the sweet that you assume you get in a pineapple rum. You're getting a much more, I would say, organic, natural product. So people who are used to pineapple rums, this is not that rum. This is, to me, much more interesting. And I will let those guys kick into actually how and why.
Yeah. I was actually asked to make a pineapple rum by a friend in Johannesburg who was one of our biggest local sort of supporters from South Africa. And I went to his house a couple of times in Johannesburg, and he let me try some of his imported pineapple rum, which he bought cases and cases of. But he was a huge fan of our rums, which at that stage were not flavored at all. So the only rum we do with any kind of non-sugarcane component to it is the pineapple rums. So we are very much purist. So we don't even add caramel for coloring. I mean, all of our rums are just rum and nothing else. So it kind of took a bit of twisting on my arm to make a pineapple rum. It was kind of I felt like I was betraying my morals by putting something in our rum. But anyway, I thought if we make a proper pineapple rum with no bullshit, no sugar, no coloring, just rum and pineapple and nothing, I'd have a stab at it. So we did it and sell some of it to Le Maison Whiskey in France. And they do buy it from us, not in huge quantities. And then again, when Sheldon joined me, I said to him, that's another avenue I'd like to explore further, is do some more work on the pineapple rum and try different things. So he had a couple of ideas and implemented them. And yeah, I think it came out quite a bit better. I was explaining to him what I had been doing, and he got to taste that, obviously, and had some other ideas to try. And we tried them, and yeah, it definitely improved it quite a bit. And that's what made us whip it out the bri there when Eric was here, and they all did back somersaults over it. We decided to make a pineapple rum, and yeah, Eric's done all the work on the label and the presentation and everything. I asked a lot here locally about potential names for it and everything, and a bit like Mhoba means sugarcane in Siswati, the local language. What a pineapple's called, and basically Sihenge is the name they use for pineapples. So in the same vein, we've just gone with sort of a descriptive name in Siswati. So yeah, that's how it was born, basically. I don't know. I don't think there's any reason not to tell them what Sheldon changed in terms of making the rum.
Please.
I was using rather high ABV white rums, so very high alcohol content to do the infusion with the pineapple. And Sheldon's idea was that perhaps that really high ABV was kind of tarnishing the flavor in the pineapple a bit. So we dropped the ABV a lot. So we diluted the white rum quite a bit with water before adding the pineapple. And that seems to have retained more of the sort of pineapple flavor. Before that, I think it was very much like a nondescript fruitiness. Like I didn't pick up any huge pineapple aspect to it, whereas the reduced ABV infusion seems to work a lot better, and I think the carriage of the pineapple comes through much better. But yeah, as Eric's pointed out, it's not, if you're used to drinking something like plantation pineapple and you drink our stuff, it's very different. I mean, a lot of pineapple rums are, to me, really synthetic tasting, very doctored and sweetened, and kind of what you'd expect to taste if you had a sort of pineapple sweet, pineapple flavored sweet or something. They don't taste real to me. They taste very much synthetic. So it's not like that at all. It's very much real pineapple rum.
Yeah. So long story short, you're going to sell all the Sihenge, and then we'll have 31 flavors of Mhoba coming after that. No,
again, the pineapples are local. You know, it's very much a local product.
Yeah.
They're not importing strawberries from where, although they do grow strawberries down there too, right? I mean they grow on that 4.5-hour drive. I just passed fields and fields of agriculture. I mean, the amount of amazing farmland there is just awesome.
Yeah.
And the design I'll talk about, because you know, it's a new design. You can see it behind me, the YouTube watchers. You know, it was challenging because, you know, at the end of the day, we're three white guys making releasing an African rum, and we really couldn't use any African tribal elements or patterns, or, I mean, that's not our heritage.
Right.
And really what it came down to in essence is the cane and the pineapple. because that's really all it is. So, the center background is the abstraction of the sugarcane, which you can sort of see. And then the side, which is sort of African-y, is just an abstraction of the pineapple up close. So
Ah,
it's really
interesting.
just pineapple and cane. We worked with a great designer out of Belarus for this, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Um,
John and I, now having been through our own label design process, know how painstaking it can be, and I think have developed a whole new respect
Oh,
for the
yeah.
process. So,
and
yeah.
and I had a nice 2 month long fight with the TTB and the FDA over this.
Ah,
Of course you did.
We got the formula approved, but they insisted that the label had to say pineapple flavored rum
ooh.
because it was submitted in the category, and I'm like, it's not, it's not. It just needs to say pineapple rum like everything else. And the way to get around that, I had to resubmit the formulation, send the bottles in again, and classify it as a rum specialty product instead of a,
Ah.
a flavored. And when it's a rum specialty, you can call it whatever the hell you want.
Oh, yeah.
But if you submit it as a flavored rum, it has to say pineapple flavored rum in big letters.
You shouldn't have revealed the secret for everyone else trying to
But
make the pine. They
you
would have been
have,
on the shelves
yes.
as pineapple flavored next to your pineapple
I'm
rum.
all about raising the category for everybody. So, my
Yeah.
2 months of fighting back and forth with the FDA and the TTB finally enabled us to get that label, which I really love. And we've got really cool pins and the hats we're going to make too, which I'm excited about.
Very nice.
Awesome. So, Robert, I was obviously having you on a little bit there with regards to that, but I do want to know from you and Shaldon, you mentioned you're experimenting a little bit with some of the, what you're doing with the high ester and the differences in there. And I think you mentioned maybe a couple other things. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else you feel like you're doing that might take your operation to a different level or open up a new area or anything on that line?
Yeah, I guess alternative energy is a big issue for us. The business my dad started in the 1980s has basically died over the last 20 years, largely because of interrupted production and just loss of customers. So clients buying products from us are not in business anymore. We've had years of very erratic and unstable electricity supply and huge increases in price. I mean, I've been here, electricity costs have gone up 1,000%.
Wow.
So, yeah, 1,000%, and they also the availability and reliability is just terrible. So, and look, our distillery is still very small, which means it's not too much of an issue, and we don't rely on electricity all that much for the rum making. But the way we're doing it now is not really scalable in terms of we can't get all that much bigger without an alternative energy source, predominantly for heat to run the stills. So yeah, I've gone quite out of my way. In fact, I've left the rum making quite a bit up to Shaldon now. Obviously, I stick my nose in there now and again, but Shaldon is doing more and more. And I've been trying to make biogas out of the bagasse from sugarcane, which has gone pretty well. I've even run a little generator off of gas that I've made entirely from sugarcane, which was pretty awesome.
Oh, wow.
But I've also come to the harsh realization that it's quite hard to do on the scale that we're at. So, I mean, if we were 20 times the size we are, then it would probably pay to set up a plant to do that and generate electricity from the waste from the rum making. And we're not 20 times the size. And I think it's going to take quite some time to get to being 20 times the size. And solar is probably the way to go. So we've put quite a large solar installation in, and as usual, I'm wanting to do a lot of it myself. So I am building my own battery, which is quite enormous. A 1 megawatt hour lithium battery, which I am assembling myself out of cells and building the BMS myself and all that sort of stuff, which is a lot of time and effort, but I think it'll be worth it in the end, because I'll probably have to build another 10 of these, and then we could probably be entirely off the grid.
Wow.
and get a lot bigger, which will also bring our cost per liter down, because that's another barrier for us. A lot of people like E&A share, love our juice and want to buy it, but the cost per liter is just too high. And it's because of our scale. We're just really tiny. So running a farm and the distillery on the sort of scale that we're doing it, your economies of scale are just not there. So your cost per liter is extremely high. So we need to get a bit smarter and do things more efficiently and hopefully sell more liters of rum, and possibly make a sort of different distillate that we sell in bulk, and then concentrate on the best stuff that we put in cask and sell as whites, almost as a separate entity, but like some of the Mauritian distilleries do. But yeah, we need to make more liters in order to make it sustainable. I mean, it was started as a kind of hobby of mine, I guess, hoping it would be a business, and it has grown into a little business, but it's not big enough to carry us, really. We've got to do other things still, and yeah, we need to make the rum bigger in order for it to be sustainable.
Well, I mean, it's really cool that you're doing that in terms of just the project in and of itself, being off the grid or working towards that standard has to be pretty intimidating, I would think. But also, like you said, it could work out really well in the end and be really worthwhile for you. You've got the sunlight, that's for sure. So,
Yep.
Well, we set out to unravel a bit of the mysteries behind Mhoba. I think we learned a lot in the process. Is there anything we didn't get to? Anything else that you want the rum enthusiasts around the world to know about South African rum, about Mhoba rum, about anything else that we didn't cover?
I don't think so, but what they need to do is try it. That's the most important thing. Just hearing us talk about it, I don't think does it justice. You can try it.
It's the one barrier we have not figured out how to cross yet, is when people listen to the Rumcast, how they can also taste the rum we're talking about.
Yeah.
Robert, maybe you could help us build a technology to do that with your engineering skills and everything. That would really be
I'm only
something.
a solar technician at this point. So
Just a
I
solar
don't think it might
technician,
be.
yeah.
there you
One
go.
thing that's sort of peripherally related. I don't know how many of your listeners have actually had a proper South African braai. Like, they're like, oh, we'll have a barbecue, which in America means throw some hamburgers
Right.
and hot dog. There was this giant thing filled with every type of meat and steak cut imaginable. It was like 30, 40 pounds of meat for like 5 people. It was ridiculous. It was the most amazing meal ever.
I saw the pictures.
yeah.
Ivar had some pictures of that, and
Yeah,
I
it
was
looked
like,
really
that
cool.
that is a lot of varieties of meat that are
Like,
being thrown on a very
They
large
know,
grill. Yeah.
they know how to barbecue. We don't. I mean,
It's real meat, nothing
Yeah.
processed. It's real meat, and I always say it's a barbecue, but
We'll have to come down for a braai, but thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on a Saturday. I know we've got several different time zones represented here, so appreciate you guys putting in the effort. And I know people are going to be excited to hear this and to try a lot of these new rums that we discussed. So definitely go out and do what you can to taste some of these Mhoba rums. It's really unique stuff.
Yeah.
But thanks
Nope.
for joining us.
November 1st, they'll be available everywhere.
November 1st.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. Keep an eye out.
cool, guys. Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to another episode of the Rumcast. If you want to learn more about Mhoba and all things there, we'll put a link to their website in the show notes and some other, interviews that we read to prepare for our interview. There's definitely other good stuff out there if you want to learn more. And we'd love to hear from you if you're planning to be at any of these events that John is going to be at. John, I think you have another one to share just now, but let us know. Send us an email. Say, hey, I'm going to be there. But John, remind the people where you're going to be.
Yeah, so as we mentioned in the intro, I'll be at the Aku Aku Tiki Bar in downtown Orlando on Tuesday, November 4th, hoping that some people can make it out on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. and just join us for the Rumcast release. there. We get to pour those, like we were saying. And then also some late breaking news here, Will. I will also be attending the Miami Rum Renaissance Festival here. It's a very short drive from my house, so how could I miss out on the chance to talk more rum with rum enthusiasts nearby, where you and I first met, and we kind
where
of
it all began.
the genesis of the show, maybe.
Exactly.
You might say. No Phil Collins there, but and we so I will be there. This is going to be on Sunday, November 9th, is their grand tasting from 12:30 to 5. You do have to buy tickets for this show, but I will be there talking rum with a few people here in South Florida. If you're in South Florida, come on out and see me and say hi when you're there.
Very cool. I'm feeling FOMO for missing out on all these Florida. I was going to say South Florida, but Orlando's not really South Florida. All these Florida events. You're going all over the place.
I'm going to be here, there, and everywhere. I'm waiting for the next invitation where people say, "Hey, come on out to this thing," and I will be.
All right. Well, if you have another invitation for John Gulla, or any thoughts, anything you want to tell us, your reactions to the Mhoba interview, questions that we didn't get to, what do you think we should talk about next? Send us an email, host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or as always, you can also contact us via social media. John, where can they find us there?
At the Rumcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, and we will continue to post our episode releases there, as well as more information as the Rumcast Reserve is starting to come out, where people are selling it and saying where they're going to have stock of it, or, of course, when people get the bottles in their hand.
Yes.
I'm really hoping that we get tagged in some shots of that. That would be nice to see, and we can share those as well. So, yeah, I'm right there, Will. It's like I'm at peak excitement level here without I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I think that says it all.
I'm not
You're
really sure
beyond
how
comprehension
to
right now.
Exactly. It's just like I don't know what to think. I don't know if people are going to be like trying this and then telling us like, wow, this is really great, which we hope. And what comes of that? Who's going to be the favorite, right? Is it going to be the Guyana or the Mauritius? Do you have any thoughts on that, Will? I don't even know yet who I think is going to be the favorite here.
So I do have a prediction, but I don't want to say, because again, I don't want to plant. I don't want to set an expectation in people's minds that they should favor one over the other, because I definitely think each rum will have its favorites. If I had to predict that one might be a little more popular than the other, I could do that. I think that was kind of a little bit by design on our end. I think we felt that these are, I think these are both rums that have like a decent amount of appeal. Neither one of these is something that's just like, well, that's going to be something that you either love or you hate,
Right.
But I do think one just has a little bit more mass appeal than the other. So we'll see what people think. The answer might surprise them.
We should do the same thing where, if you send in saying which one you like better of the two, we'll send you ours.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I love them both equally. I don't have a favorite child, so that's what I'll say.
That's the boilerplate answer. I get it. Yeah.
Well, you'll hear from us again soon. Like I said, as soon as these are available. And in the meantime, thank you as always for listening, and we'll be back again soon. Until then, cheers.
Cheers.